Hello, everyone. We'll just wait one more minute. Make sure we have everybody we need here. And I did hear from Dr. Yarborough. He is going to be a few minutes late, but we'll get started in about 1 minute.
Mr. Chu is also running a few minutes late, but he's the second one on the agenda. And if he doesn't show up, I can present on his behalf.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, to another fabulous edition of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting. We're going to get started here, and I did have a request from our CFO, Mr. Hernandez, to be able to give his budget update presentation earlier in the meeting instead of at the end of the meeting. So I think we'll be able to accommodate that. Mr. Hernandez, when you present your agreement that you're listed for 4.01, which I expect will be, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes at most, depending on the information only items. So does anybody have any comments or questions on any of the information only items?
I do.
I had none. Oh, please, Ms. Downer.
Yes. I had a question on, I believe it was 2.6 and 2.7. So the first question on 2.6, I know that they're going to be doing the solar window tinting film. Is this going to be across the board looking at other schools? Because I know Co-op had an issue with, their windows being wide open to the public, and King Robinson.
This is something we are looking at continuing additional projects. This particular one is around helping with, because there are no blinds on that side of the building, this would help reduce the temperature in those rooms, as we have other HVAC issues within Truman as well. But we are looking at this same company to do the work around the lecture hall in Co-op and other spaces that we need to do either some kind of tinting, both for security and environmental reasons.
Okay. All right. Is there the other one? Sorry. Is there any issues with, sorry about this. So for 2.7, I noticed that Amazon had the handyman service replacing, I guess, the tiles, the ceiling tiles. Is there any issues over there for any of the roof?
No, this is replacement. This is just rehab in the auditorium. And so this is more the appropriate tiles that would go into an auditorium space.
Okay. That's all I had.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Oh, please.
Nope. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Downer. So hearing nothing else related to the information only items, we'll jump into the abstracts. There is one head start. Ms. Derwin.
Good afternoon. This is the abstract for the continuation grant for Head Start. The grant was flat funded this year, so we're receiving $5,837,376, the same as we did last year. About 5,781,000 are operational, and 56,000 is training and technical assistance. This covers the period from July 1st through June 30th of 2027. This provides for educational services as well as wraparound services as required by the Head Start grant. We have 438 students, approximately 125 staff members. The grant covers salaries, materials and supplies, transportation at the Dr. Mayo School, field trips in all buildings, and some other contractual agreements to support the multifaceted services.
Thank you very much, Ms. Derwin. Are there comments or questions related to this? I had none either, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We'll move on into agreements. First, maybe what we should do, Mr. Hernandez, before you do the agreement 4.01, if you could provide the budget update for FY 26-27 that's listed down as 11.01.
Sure. So I'll be brief with this update. So at this point where we are is that we have scheduled a couple of different meetings regarding the budget. One of them, for example, at the end of the month on April 29th, I believe we have a workshop with the elders. This is part. I believe this is part of their finance committee as part of their process to meet with every different department. So ours will be on April 29th. For the next F&O meeting, hopefully I have more information on what the specifics are or how the structure of that meeting or presentation will look like. But that will be our opportunity to make our case, right, to the elders, not only for the amount proposed by the mayor on his request, but also the rest of our needs that are still pending to be met for next year. We're also still continuing to find opportunities to meet with the different stakeholders, whether it's a state delegation or any other stakeholders that may help us and support our efforts. So we have some opportunities that we will be taking advantage of. On our website, if you go to the homepage where it says the budget development section, it's right on the homepage. If you click there where it says learn, I think it says learn more. You click there, you'll see on that page, I think the second sentence, I believe there's a link for our community or any other person that would like to still ask questions or send feedback regarding the budget. There's a link there for you to do so. We are continuously monitoring the any submittal to that link, so we can maintain and keep up the community, up to date with the information or any questions that they may have. And then after the April workshop, I know the elders have to approve their budget by June 1st. It's the first Monday of the month of June. I think that's what the charter says. So June 1st, they have to approve the budget. Hopefully by then we will know more about the status of any of the proposals at the state legislative office. We'll know a little bit more where we are with any of those proposals, and hopefully by then we'll be able to adjust the budget upwards as far as revenue. And that's what we are kind of like, keeping our eyes on and our prayers that we receive the resources that we need to serve our community. And then obviously then we have the approval by the board on June 22nd, I believe, is when the board will be taking up the our final budget for approval. And that's pretty much where we are.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Thank you for that update. I just would recommend that if there is anything that you need us or the public to do in terms of reaching out to people or support of specific ideas or legislation. I know when Governor Lamont was in town, there was some questions related to school funding, and if there's anything you need us to do, please let us know. And then the second thing I would recommend is for our alders, if I would just recommend reaching out to them ahead of time of that meeting later this month, just to see if they have any questions, just to make sure that the information you're presenting is answering all their questions that they might have, since time is becoming tight in the process.
Of course. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hearing nothing else on that, let's go jump back into the action items and talk about Agreement 4.01 with E-Mics Incorporated.
Yes. So this agreement, it's Amex Inc. is the parent company. We know it as Inform K-12. If you remember, recently we had an agreement approved for Inform K-12 for a proof of concept to create the purchase order workflow, automated workflow. For, I think it was like $7,000 back then when it was just a proof of concept. We are basically now, after we had already implemented it throughout the district, seeing the success of it and going through the learning curve of learning and understanding how to use it, how to modify it, how to fix it, how people have been trained on how to use it. Now we have made the says with them to now cover some of the other areas that will benefit greatly from a similar type of automated workflow. We have some ideas, and if you see on the agreement, there are some ideas, and again, these are just some ideas, some suggestions that the Inform K-12 with Inform have also proposed applications.
Actually, Mr. Hernandez, you've been right when you started talking about the things that this might encompass, you started cut in and out. So maybe if you could restate that.
So some that we have identified as potential opportunities to have Inform K-12 create an automatic workflow for us, which essentially would just combine like manual complex processes into a digital one that's automated that we can use more effectively. Some ideas are request for hires, request for posting, summer application, school applications, parents. I think there's one that's parents send letters to parents, school timesheets. So there are a lot of different processes that we have identified as ones that will benefit from these particular agreements. The structure will look like from April or whenever this is approved through the end of August. It will be about implementing, creating the process, creating the template, implementing it, and then the goal is for all of them to be ready to go before school starts. So that way, whoever will be impacted by these additional services or workflow will be able to be trained early on in the school year, so that way we could use it for the rest of the year. And again, we're doing this because of the success that we had already with the one we implemented with them. And we'll be saving a lot of time, a lot of manual work, a lot of human error. We may be able to eliminate a lot of the human error, not only by calculations, but also by the time it takes sometimes for people to check the emails and check, and approve everything. This workflow will automatically take the document from one person to the other automatically without anybody having to send the email to such person. And that's just some of the benefits of the many benefits that we have already identified and improved through the PO system.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions? Okay, I'll just note that this is going to be exceeding 12 months, so it'll likely end up have to go before the alders, I believe. So you might want to factor that into it looks like it's a 13 month or 14-month contract. So just
an
FYI to everybody.
If I may, the license will be for 1 year. The only reason that we're doing 2 months ahead is only to get it ready and implemented before school year. And they wanted to align the renewal of the licensing agreement, align it with July 1st. So that way we don't have this issue moving forward of crossing fiscal year. So this will be the only time that it will cross fiscal year. So it's not really, and this is for whatever it's worth, and the attorney can provide feedback on this. For whatever it's worth, this is not a multi-year agreement. It's a 1 year agreement that has an additional 2 months, only for implementation purposes and only to align it in a year-to-year basis, so we don't have to run into multi-year agreement. In the future, we may consider multi-year if we see the success of it, and we may be able to get a better cost. We may consider multi-year in the future, but at this time, the 1 year was the preferred choice, just to the part of making sure that it works the way that is intended.
All right, thank you. I just recommend having, I guess, Attorney Barrera just double check the time frame and advise as to if this is going before the alders or not. President Yarborough?
Yes, just Matt, to your point, if it does require that extra step, it might be worth breaking this out into two different items, because the implementation cost is already broken out for this at 15,000. And if that is something that happens the last 2 months of this year, I guess depending on how payments are made, how this is going to be funded, you may want to consider doing that, breaking it out into two.
Okay, just to follow up on that, my recommendation would be if something's going to change over what we're seeing right here, in terms of if this is going to be one that looks like 14 months, or is it going to be one implementation for 2 months and one standard 1 year starting July 1, just please let us know this week if that's the case. That shouldn't change the actual time frame, and it doesn't change the dollar amounts. So I'm comfortable with this moving forward, one way or the other. I mean, it doesn't bother me if it's approved by the alders or not. So we just need to make sure we got everything in line. And if there's going to be any changes, please let us know before posting on Friday. Any other comments or questions on this item? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Hernandez. You can go off to your next meeting. Let's see here. Okay, so item 4.02 is with Connecticut State Community College Gateway Campus. Ms. Jackson.
Hi, this is an agreement for our Gateway to College program that services our overage undercredited students. I just want to, as I go through, as I talk a little bit about this particular agreement, I do just want to let the board know over the last year, we reduced the contract amount. We've been analyzing the amount of students, the student interest, the attendance, graduation rate. We, in 2003-2004 school year, graduated 42 students between the winter and spring semester, 34 over the 24-25 school year, and then 25 and 26 school year. And the reason why I'm saying that is that we want to make sure that we continue to be good stewards, making sure that, again, if students are leveraging our in-district programs, what does that mean for us in our vendors? So I just wanted to make sure that the board is aware of that this used to be a $600,000 contract, that now is a $300,000 contract, just based on some of the variables that I just mentioned. But essentially, it is our program to help our students, our overage undercredited students, get to graduation.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions for Ms. Jackson? Dr. Yarborough.
Yes, thank you very much for adding that note, Ms. Jackson. I think that's great and just wise stewardship. So thank you very much for taking those extra steps to put that in. A general question about working with the Gateway. If students were to try to pay for Gateway on their own, what would it cost them?
So generally for our students, there's opportunities for our students to go for free to our Gateway programs. But, again, within this particular program, I will say connected to this particular program, our students are actually in Gateway programs in college, with other college students, but we have an opportunity for our students to be able to go to programs for free.
Okay. I'm wondering if students were to enroll on their own.
Yep.
Would they be paying the amount that we are paying for them to enroll?
So we have opportunities if students wanted to go to Gateway Community College on their own. And without the Gateway to College program, we still have an opportunity for our students to be able to go to Gateway to College free of cost.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And are we paying for staff in this
We're
to
paying
basically?
for, so essentially, yes, let me explain. So in the Gateway to Community College, what we're paying for here is not tuition per se for Gateway. We're paying for the staff because it's a program within a program. So it's our program. So exactly to your point, we're paying for the staffing who actually essentially are servicing our students within our high school program on Gateway's
Oh,
campus.
okay. And these are but state staff though, staff of Gateway,
Yep,
not our
they are.
staff. Okay.
And then we have some of our own staff as well. So it's a hybrid. So there's a mix of Gateway employees and then a mix of some of our own employees.
Okay. Thank you very much. That
Welcome.
clarifies to me. Thank you.
Now, just noting the time frame for this. In the past, we if I remember correctly, we always get this late in the year because this has to be approved by Connecticut State Attorney General,
Yep,
and that takes
that
a
is
long
correct.
time for it to come here. And so once you get that, then it comes to us. Is that the case this year?
That's absolutely the case.
Okay. So, and then just the final question that I had was approximately how many students are in there? You mentioned we're cutting down and
Yep,
really examining this, but currently about how many do you?
we have 24 students
Okay,
and about 16, well, actually, I'm sorry, 14 students that are slated to graduate.
wonderful. Well, great opportunity. If there's no other comments or questions, thank you very much, Ms. Jackson, and we'll move on to 5.01, which is an amendment to the agreement with Nurses for Daycare. Ms. Derwin.
Hi, this is an amendment for our existing relationship with Nurses for Daycare. And this amendment allows for screening of new students who have not come in at the beginning of the year. So per Head Start performance standards, we are required to have hearing and vision screening within 45 days of students entering. So the bulk of our students come in the fall, but then once a year goes on, we always lose some students and get additional students. So this will allow for hearing and vision screening for the new students, also for all their health information to be put into the COPA database, which is the database that we hold all our health information for Head Start as well. That feeds directly into the program information report, which is due annually to Head Start. So it's a detailed report that includes things like height and weight, lead levels, also all the students' immunizations, vision, hearing, etc. So we're dealing with screenings and then the input of information into a database. We are looking into moving towards the ability to put all the health information into PowerSchool as a cost-saving measure down the road, but the program will have to be written and amended in certain ways to allow all the information required to happen.
All right, thank you, Ms. Derwin. Are there comments or questions? I had none either, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, this is slightly unrelated. Under amendments, before we got to 5.1, there's a document, SLERF fund changes. Is that something we need to act upon as a?
We're going to talk about it next.
Oh, okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it relates to the next three items.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Derwin. And so we'll move on to 5.02, 03, and 04 are related and involve that SLURF funds changes document. So we perhaps because these are no change in funding amount, we can deal with these as a group, but Dr. White, please talk about these, and then if we have questions about any one of these three items, please ask them.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So this is a reflection of changes in accounts for work that we are doing in the district. There were SLUR funds, which was state and local, and I lost recovery funds. I forgot financial recovery funds that we were allotted through the city through an ARPA grant. All of these funds are due to be spent and fully liquidated by September 30th. To be safe on some of these projects, because some things have long lead times and any delay in installation or such, working with the city, we've moved everything that was not encumbered already to be completed. That amount of money has been moved over to capital. And so right now we're in the process of moving these approved projects over to capital so that they can still be done. We haven't lost any money. It's just where the money is coming from has changed. So, and again, it takes the pressure off running into any problem at the end in liquidation and then not being able to have the money properly spent through audit processes.
Thank you. Comments or questions about the overall project or these three individual items? All right, hearing none. Thank you. We'll move on to purchase orders. There are two related or similar. Rather, 6.01 is temporary chiller services at John C. Daniels, and 6.02 is the same at Betsy Ross. Dr. White?
Yes, as we had to do last year because these systems had failed completely, we need to have temporary chillers for the summer, for the end of the school year and beginning of the new school year. As you look down further, we'll see we're in the process of purchasing replacement chillers to make these repairs, that this is the last time we have to do this for our schools.
All right. Comments or questions on 6.01 or 6.02? Dr. Yarbrough?
Yes, thank you. Dr. White, will you please say that last part again in terms of this is the last time we may have to do temporary?
As we have one chiller when we go down to change orders, there's one that's in our SLUR funds, but it won't be able to be installed in time. So we have to rent the chiller for this year. And then as we look at our funding, we'd be looking at doing a chiller at Broader as well, so that again, we don't have to do we won't have to do temporary rentals at these locations. We hope we don't have any other total failures, but again, this is for what we know coming into the warm weather season already.
Understood. Thank you.
Follow-up question. I do see the John C. Daniels one is one of the ones that are listed down in the change orders that you just mentioned, and I didn't catch it. For Betsy Ross, is that that's in planning process, or is we hope to find the funding, or?
That's in planning process as well. There's some other related work that wanted to make sure was done in order before we put in the order for that one.
Okay. And we haven't already approved the Betsy Ross one. That's for the replacement of the chiller. That'll come to us at some point, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on 6.01 or 02? Hearing none, let's jump into the change orders, which I think are all related to the SLUR funds changes. Dr. White, could you address 7.01, 2, 3, and 4?
Yes, these are related in the same way. The GAT construction for the bathroom repairs, that was a project that we had worked on, got approved. We had to do some work around the rebidding and qualifications checks that slowed it down getting in. So it's a project we know we will complete, but again, because it wasn't encumbered, we put everything that was SLURF related into the move to the capital side. And that's what's reflected in all of these.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions on 7.01, 2, 3, and 4? Hearing none, thank you for that. We'll move into contracts. First one's 801 with Pascarillo Electric. Dr. White?
Yes, this is in preparation for the new fiscal year. This is our on-call for any electrical work. This is for larger projects that cannot be completed by our tradespeople. And that's what that one is for, on-call.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. Hearing nothing else. 8.02, water contract with Playground Maintenance Corp. Dr. White?
Yes, this is for safety and security of all students to make sure that we are checking playgrounds, making the repairs that are necessary to make these spaces as usable as possible.
All right, thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either, so hearing none, we'll go on to 8.03, award a contract to Avez Caulking. Dr. White?
Yes, 3 and 4 are related. This was the awarding of the contract. It was split into 2 vendors so that we could get the work done in a quick time frame. This is a combination of interior doors, some exterior doors, and any repairs that come out of our various inspections.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions on 8.03 or 8.04 with Avez Caulking or Quality Builders? Okay, I had none either. 8.05 and 8.06 are related. They're also for the remainder of this fiscal year. If I remember correctly, this was only we did landscaping for the first part of the fiscal year, and now this would be that. So, Dr. White, would you please address both of these?
Yes.
And then we'll have questions on them.
So this is award for the remaining zones that were not. We had a successful bidder that we awarded to. Then they had become non-compliant or non-responsive, so we rescinded that award and then put a small RFP out to take the remaining zones that weren't covered, and these were the 2 successful bidders.
Are there comments or questions for 8.05 or 8.06? Dr. Yarbrough?
Thank you. Yes. I know I've seen these vendors' names before. Have they done landscaping work for us in the past?
Amazon has, and Cheapskate has. Cheapskate has done landscaping as well as they were one of our snow removal vendors. In
Okay.
awarding these zones, most were awarded to Amazon to cover this. Cheapskates has some zones already for this upcoming year, but wanted to make sure that we are setting ourselves as well as our vendors up for success. So we parsed out these awards based on what we were comfortable that could be completed by the vendors, so that no one is overstretched in doing the work.
Okay.
And then we'd be underwhelmed with results.
Okay. Thank you. One just note in terms of the documentation is that in question 11, where it asked about this is a renewal, has the vendor met all obligations under the previous existing agreement and contract? I recognize it's a new contract and not a renewal. And I think it will be important to write about our past experience with the vendor meeting obligations just for both of those. That's all, Mr. Wilcox. Thank you, Dr. White.
Thank you. Yes, that'd be great if that could be updated on the memo.
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes, Dr. White, I know that this is them fulfilling the contractor that was taken out of that wasn't compliant with us. But do you know when the new contracts are coming up for
Uh,
landscaping?
those will be coming out shortly for the next school year.
Okay, because are you aware that other public schools hire per diem for seasonal maintenance and ground maintenance? And when I say other, I mean Danbury Public Schools, Wallingford Public Schools, Guilford Public Schools. They're all seasonal jobs per diem for groundskeeping, seasonal maintenance. And I realized that we don't hire seasonal, but our public works hire seasonal and our park and rec hire seasonal. So, I mean, like, since we're setting ourselves up for success, I think that we probably need to be looking at stuff like that too. So I would think
Those
that we should try. I'm just saying they usually do it from April to November per DM. We need to try something better than what we have. We got too much privatization around this area that we cannot get control over. So I just wasn't sure when the new contracts was on the table. So I just think we need to do something really better. We cannot keep relying on private contractors.
Right. And I will do further research into that. One of the challenges with some of the per diem work is uh, the equipment purchase and the maintenance in between. But again, I will do some investigating about what the possibilities are. And like with many of the things we're working on, there's a ramp up to what we can do inside versus calling on vendors.
I understand, but it's not working for us. So, all right. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Downer. Just as a follow-up on that, I agree if there's better ways to do it, we should be looking at it, and I would expect more questions about that when the on-call landscape contracts are presented for the next fiscal year. And I would also suggest that if there's some unknowns about ramp-up times, equipment costs, maintenance, et cetera, that maybe one of the zones could be dedicated to this as a pilot, and then we can have some performance data to see if the costs are better or worse for us, or if the finding the people, et cetera. That might be one way to do it in a small way rather than to put all 45 buildings and however many locations those are on into one, doing it all at once. That might be something that could be done.
Thank you for that suggestion. I will look at that as well. We did have uh, success working with the Parks Department on limited basis because again, they had to maintain their fields and did some overtime work for us when we had some failures with contractors before, but I'll get some further research for that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it might
Yeah.
be a room for a pilot project, especially, maybe location specific, even with just thinking about Cross, for instance, and is, right next to city fields, which presumably they have some role in maintaining, et cetera. And so it's like right there, maybe there's some connections that can be made in expanding what they're already doing as at least as a pilot in one zone, or creating a new zone that'll encompass a couple of these areas that would be easier to do. But thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else on this, we'll move on to 807, which is renewal option 1 of 2 of award to renew with Eagle Rivet Roof Services. Dr. White.
Yes, this has been one of our roofing companies we've been working with. Again, we send them out when we have issues to help resolve some of them, whether small patches in roofs or larger issues such as when we had falling concrete at food service. So we have them on call for a wide range of projects. Getting this in place for the upcoming year.
Thank you. Comments or questions? I had none either. So 8.08 is renewal of option 1 of 2 with Enviromed. Dr. Wells.
Yes. This is again for on-call services. More so the mold side than the asbestos side. But again, when we have anything of the sort, this is who would go out, do testing, help us with remediation and proper processes so that we maintain health and safety.
Comments or questions? I'll just ask, it's still the case that if somebody has concerns about mold in any one of our buildings, location for it, the proper way to handle it is work orders, working with the building leader, and if they're worried that something's taking a while, etc. I've had complaints in the past, not recently, but in the past, that is that the work orders and talking with the building leader the best way forward for that?
Yes, it remains that's the best way forward. And we try to respond as quickly as possible because the easiest way to relieve people's mind is to determine a water stain versus actual mold. So,
All right, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else on that, we'll move into it's time to do our healthy food certifications. So this is 9.01 and 9.02. Mr. Young.
Good evening. These healthy food certifications are to approve for child nutrition for the 26-27 school year. 9.01 just certifies that all food items offered to the sale of students for the school under its jurisdiction and not exempt from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. The certification shall include all foods offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, included but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations. 9.02 just highlights the exemptions that during extracurricular activities, soccer games, school plays, or interscholastic debates, these standards do not have to be met. So basically, when you have those extracurricular activities, they can sell whatever they would like.
All right, thank you. There are comments or questions? I mean, we get these every year. So my one thing is I can't recall, and Ms. DeMayo, if you could circle back with me sometime before the end of the week, just what the motion for these needs to be. I tend to do motions that involve the state or federal government standalone because we've run into some issues before. So just the question is, should I do that with these as well? And then also, what should the motion be? So for instance, am I reading all the words here in 9.01 and 2 in the descriptions, or is there a shorter form that will meet the needs? I don't want to get that wrong.
I can check that for you. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about that, but I do know they have to be voted on separately.
Yes.
So I'm happy to vote on them separately, but I just want to make sure we've had issues in the past. The motion wasn't sufficient enough. And then also that we didn't do it as a standalone item. We just did it as a group. And so I'm going to do them as standalone. I just want to make sure I get the motion
I'll get that to Ms.
right.
Pat.
So if you or Ms. DeMayo can advise on that, or Attorney Barrera, I just want to make sure we get it right.
Thank you.
All right. And
I'll hop in real. I'm driving, so I apologize for not being on camera, Mr. Wilcox and all. I would just do them one by one, just to be safe. And the agenda, however it's written in the agenda, again, I don't have it right in front of me, but that should be sufficient. But I'm just throwing that out there.
yeah, my question is, what's written in the agenda is very lengthy, and
Oh.
I'm happy to read it. It's like it's a couple paragraphs, and
No.
just want to make
Okay.
sure what I have to do to make sure we get it right on Monday night.
Okay. I'll send some language, or I'll work with everyone offline.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, that is the end of our action items. I will make the motion, and I move we send to the full board this one abstract, these 2 agreements, these 4 amendments, these 2 purchase orders, these 4 change orders, these 8 contracts, and these 2 certifications.
Second.
Is there any discussion? So we'll go ahead and vote. Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. They will all move forward. So thank you. Moving into section 11, the committee reports. We already heard from our CFO, so we'll jump into 11.02, food service budget update. Mr. Young.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what I have here is the food service budget as of January 2026. The reason why I said January 2026 is because we haven't received our reimbursements for February or March, and then there's still some lingering payments that are out. But I do have the year to date and forecasted to kind of let you know where we would stand at the end of the year. So I'll start with our accounts. As you all know, we have breakfast, lunch, snack, supper, fresh fruit and vegetable, as well as summer food service. Um, there has been a slight decrease in our breakfast and lunch numbers. I would say just for me, looking at the overall enrollment at school sites, there is a slight decrease in enrollment at the schools. Uh, and so that's the reason why we are still trying to find ways to ramp up that participation. At the school snack, we have about 20 snacks locations, about 10 supper programs going on, and then we have 6 sites with fresh fruit and vegetable. And fresh fruit and vegetable is the program that we send in fresh fruits about 2 to 3 days a week and serve those items to the students. And these are fruits and vegetables that they typically don't get on the regular. Moving to our state grants, you have your Healthy Food Initiative. We have received a portion of that, waiting on another portion. We have not received our state matching funds for lunch, as well as we have already received our start state matching funds for breakfast. Moving down to your food service fees here, you see cafeteria fee, bank interest earned, other miscellaneous revenue, as well as contract food reimbursement. We do have contract food reimbursement, contract food services with our with Trio programs, who offers us unitized breakfast kits for the morning for breakfast. Scroll down here to page 2. So if you look here where we are with wages and overtime, salaries, we don't have them. Management, then you have the custodian, which is zeroed out as well because we don't have custodians. Then you have your clerical salaries, your cafeteria staff, your truck drivers, your part-time payroll, longevity, which has hit for the year. Your management overtime, managers don't receive overtime, clerical overtime, cafeteria overtime, which they do run to overtime a little bit. And you see that number is at $220 right now. So we try to keep them on schedule. Truck drivers overtime as well as custodial overtime. And custodial overtime is when my drivers work overtime in the schools as a custodian. Uh, Moving on to employee benefits, yeah, your health insurance, your retirement contribution, your FICA and Medicare, and your workman's comp. The Unite here is a portion that we are during our union negotiations. The city had agreed to take that out, so that's a good portion of chunk that's taken out from us. Then you move down to your non-personnel costs. You have your mileage, professional meetings, equipment, things like that, such as your food and supplies, your repairs and maintenance of our vehicles. We have 4 refrigerated trucks, 3 vans, and 7 cars for the cafeteria managers to drive to their school sites. Uh, so right now we have had spent a big chunk out for our vehicle repairs. We had a truck issue, and then we had some vehicles that needed some maintenance on them. Your miscellaneous expenses is at 3,539 at the moment. With this would have us ending the school year with a balance of $65,899.
All right, thank you. Are there comments or questions for Mr. Young? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yeah, just thank you for the rundown and keeping the services moving smoothly.
Thank you.
My only question is, are you anticipating any changes to like federal reimbursements or things like that? I know you track this stuff. Is this something you're worried about, or you think this is going to be okay?
I'm not really worried at this point right now. I think everything is going to be good with that. I know there has been talks about ending, maybe possibly ending CEP. With my fingers across that we don't have to have that conversation. So, as of now, nothing has been set in stone. It was talked. I know during the legislative action conference when a lot of school nutrition professionals went to DC to legislate to the lobbyists. That was one thing that we were pushing.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else on that, we will go ahead. Thank you again, and we'll move on to 11.03 quarterly part-time custodial update. Just as a reminder, this is here because one year we ended up having going over on our part-time custodial hours, and it was a end-of-year issue. So we have quarterly updates. So Dr. White.
Yes. So we have been on target with our spending. We haven't had huge overruns in overtime. Unfortunately, was not able to get our latest report in today. It came in this afternoon and was getting payments of it. But from the monitoring of our payments, they've been in accordance with what we've expected. Some of the areas where we have saved money was the long closure of the field house contributed, which is often one of our sources of a lot of overtime. That has come in on under, and we're still trying to manage through keeping our costs down for this year, but nothing to flag at this time.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Thank you, Dr. White. As it relates to overtime for the field house, if the field house collects money from people outside of the district using the field house, for example, can those resources be used to pay for the staff that services the field house?
Conceptually, yes. This is one of the trickiest of where deposits go for rentals and accounts, and that'd be something that I would need some support from CFO Hernandez and Ms. Juanita Majek to know exactly where it goes, because revenue is collected for fieldhouse rentals. It goes into accounts, but I don't know how it transfers back over as the different transfers we do between both sides. But
Okay.
conceptually, yes.
Thank you.
And just as a follow-up, that's because this is kind of like a shared space. It's connected to Cross. It's separate from Cross.
Hell
The
House.
city is involved in this to a different degree than they are with any other school building. Is that the case?
Yes, just correcting you, Hill House, connected to Hill House, but it
I'm
is a
sorry, Hill House.
separate, right, it is a separate space. We manage it, but it is a city-owned space.
I think that would be some key information to know what that costs us in terms of overtime and other costs to make sure that that's accounted for in the city's budget process when they're allocating funds to the district. If this is a large cost area and they're receiving money for it, it might be nice for us to point that out to them so that it could be factored in with the budget allocation from the city. So, not knowing if it's how significant the costs are,
Right.
and I understand that there's a huge amount of back and forth, and city does stuff for us in various ways, but just it'd be a good number to know
Yes.
for the CFO and for the superintendent. Okay, if there's nothing else on this item, we'll move into 11.04, or special education funding update. Ms. Jackson.
Give me 1 second as I share my screen. All right. So I'll just go through and pretty much what you'll see is an update from when I did the presentation in the fall, and then just really talking to you a little bit about the biggest cost driver that we have within special education around out-of-district placements. So again, we in various forums have seen this particular slide, really just emphasizing the fact that we have over 3,000 students. What I will orient you to are the notes at the bottom. So if you remember when we did this presentation early in fall, the number of students that we had, in particular, the ones who required highly specialized programming, was about 39 students. Since that time, 22 additional students have come into the district. These are not just students, if I can paint the picture, who just require an IEP and a resource room with a special education teacher. These are students who really have either complex cognitive issues, they may have medical issues. So these are students who really require highly specialized programming. So to date, as of 3/11, we had 61 students have come into our district. The number of students in out-of-district placement earlier in the year, we cited 278. We are now at 292. Total number of students that are requiring specialized programming in our district are 312. And I will talk with you a little bit about, our options and how we continue to create specialized programs in district versus paying the cost of out-of-district school, which has been what we think is a long-term is a more fiscally responsible investment. So just some of the data that you will see, again, over a period of time, this information comes directly out of EdSite. So as I mentioned before, although the slope is not steep, as far as the number of students that we have, the student type matters. Because the number of students that we have been receiving are students who require highly specialized programming. In addition to one of the things that I did add here, in addition to the students that you're seeing that, that are here serviced in New Haven Public Schools, we also have a number of students that we service. Again, whether we're paying tuition through out-of-district placement, there's 270 some odd students. This is from earlier in the year. And then we have another number of students, 479 students within our charter schools that we have been servicing as special educators in our district. And then also to our evaluators, often or also service places like Wintergreen. So I just want to make sure that we have the full picture. In addition to what we service in district, there's a whole host of other students that are not within New Haven Public Schools that also are serviced by New Haven Public Schools employees. Again, this is just one disability classification. As I mentioned to you before, it's not the steep slope increase of the number of students. It is the student type. We see, and by no means, and I've said this before as a disclaimer, by no means are we saying that all students with autism spectrum disorders require specialized programming. But again, within our specialized programming, we do have a significant number of students with autism spectrum disorders that we do service. The out-of-district tuition. So if you see, again, with the out-of-district tuition rate, even though there has been a slight increase in the number of students or that have been in out-of-district placements, what you notice is that it's not just the increase of students, but it's also the tuition rates. The tuition rates that continue to rise that also will inflate this particular cost. In addition to that, looking at transportation to the programs is also a cost that comes with our students being in an out-of-district placements. So here you'll see this is information, obviously it's from a year back, not the current year information. However, this just paints the picture that you will see that out of our special education spending, the majority of our spending in special education, right? Special education, not majority, but a huge portion of our special education spending is all about special education out-of-district tuition. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. This is just a reminder of some of the expenditures that we have. So if you take a look in IDEA, so this is the main grant that we get from the federal government. The majority of the money that we have, it goes for personnel and benefits, followed by where it says pupil services. Those are contracts that you will see here. Generally speaking, those are contracts that we use for big things like nursing or behavioral services. So again, most of the stuff that we're doing, most of the allocation and expenditures in IDEA, all related to people and service. This is just breaking this down a little bit further so you can actually see the actual people who are in the grants and the actual contracts that follow. As I mentioned to before, the high cost nursing services, bilingual psychologists, and then also the behavioral services. IDEA, in addition to our the bigger portion of the grant, there's a close to $130,000 that we utilize for paraeducators. So there's a small preschool grant from IDEA as well. This is now the expenditures that we have, expenditures through our general funds budget. As you can see, again, this is as we're looking at what's the budget for this year. The tuition cost is the highest cost. So I have them in order of the highest cost to the lowest cost. So tuition, personnel, just the personnel costs, special education, transportation, special education out of district transportation. You can see what's in the budget, but just note that what's in the budget is not the actual expense. Just want to make sure I make that clear on those two particular items. The contract amount. So again, these are where you may see some of the speech and language contracts, some of the nursing contracts. Again, in the contractual line, our part-time number that we use in general funds is offset by IDEA. There's some monies for McKinney-Vento and general supplies and equipment. We have a new seed grant. So there's been talk, and I've talked about this, I left this slide and you'll see at the end, where the legislator has been looking at how do we reconcile some of the cost in special education. So as we know, we have something that's called excess cost reimbursement for a student where, again, it's a student, so it's 4.5 times their per pupil rate that you are able to get a certain percentage of money for students who are in out of district placements. We don't get fully funded for excess costs. So the new seed grant is an attempt to try to give districts a little bit more money. Right now, this is the total amount of money that we're getting for this particular grant. The only thing that's been a downfall with this particular grant is that you can't use it for third-party vendors. So, for instance, we struggle with, hiring paraeducators. If we were able to use this for our paraeducators or for the high-cost nursing contracts, but right now you can't utilize this grant for third-party vendors. So this is where we're utilizing the grant money so that we opened up a new specialized classroom at Roberto Clemente. So the personnel there, we are utilizing our behavioral specialists as we create more of these in-district programs. We are hiring more behavioral specialists to hire those programs, to hire those personnel to support those programs. We also are looking at kind of more of a universal design an approach in our specialized classroom so that if you see things like the equipment, we're looking at, again, as opposed to just looking at one individual student and that need, we know that there's students who have similar profiles. What are the things that we can actually do within those classrooms, in our specialized classrooms, to support our students? So again, that's where the new money is going to be spent. One thing I just want to talk about is just our fiscal priorities. So I mentioned this before, that one of the biggest things that we have that we know is coming in, the amount of students that are coming into our district has always been. But the amount of students that are coming into our district with significant needs that require highly specialized programming, that number has been a huge number. So oftentimes in the world of special education, you'll hear people talk about, well, we're just going to bring the kids back from an out-of-district placement, right? In theory, that makes sense, because a student in out-of-district placement may cost anywhere between $150,000, $200,000 in some cases. But the problem with that is that you would need to be able to control the number on both ends. So because of the number of transients that we have, the level of transients we have in our district, even if I were to say today, we're going to save X amount of dollars by bringing 5 students back into district. Well, on the other end, I may receive 7 more students that are coming into the district, that also require that level of support. So what we've found is that we're trying to, as you see with our specialized programs, very easily in some districts, those students that we have within our 43 specialized programs now could be students that would be serviced in an out-of-district placement. So we continue to make the investment in our home programs, one, because we feel it's better, for our kids. We think it's, it's fiscally responsible of us to make sure that we're creating these kinds of programs in our district. And also we want our students in our district, right? So have an opportunity, and it's, better for our students. What we know that even just returning students from out of district placement, that does disrupt placements for families and for students, especially if they're doing well in those placements. And then again, as I mentioned before, the cost return isn't necessarily there if we can't control the number of students that are actually coming into the district. These are just some things just for consideration. As I mentioned before, we're continuing to build these highly specialized programs every year. The number of students is not the significant increase in the number of students with disabilities. It's the student type. As I mentioned before earlier on, the number of students that we have coming in, but having, 61 students requiring specialized programming since the beginning of the school year is a significant number. The demands for our special education teachers and SLPs are greater than any other certification. Oftentimes you hear about shortages in special education. I'm pretty confident that our special education, and sometimes this doesn't necessarily get painted, the narrative doesn't necessarily get painted the right way as far as what we have and what we don't have. The number of vacancies that we have within our district, comparatively speaking, of like districts, sometimes people are shocked that our number is not higher than what it is. But we've been very grateful that we've had partnerships through Yale Fellows, through Southern, through CREC, for us to be able to continue to have special educators to fill our roles. So I am confident that our roles, our positions will be filled. What I'm most still concerned about is that specialized classroom and a number of kids who require that highly specialized classroom teacher. Because again, not all special education teachers come into special education to be a teacher in a specialized classroom. Paired with that, the other thing that we know is a significant shortage area is paraeducators. And what you see is that we've had, thanks to the HR department, we've been working with them, doing some more webinars for our part-time paraeducators to become full-time paraeducators. We have had some success from the couple of webinars that we've had so far this year. So we are continuing to do that. And we're hoping that for the upcoming school year that we're going to be able to partner with an agency like Kelly Services to continue to fill our paraeducator role. The last slide that I'm just going to leave us here with, and this is a slide that I presented back in October, is that there are some legislative, I just want folks to know that there's a lot of energy around special education, a lot of energy around, we need to invest more money. We know that it's never enough, even if we see the amount of monies, if we were to go back to the general operating budget for special education, we know in many, many districts, anywhere between 20 to 30% of the operating budget is special education. So I do think that the legislators are starting to recognize that. These are 3 things that have been out on the table. Again, as we mentioned about the excess cost grant, we're not fully funded, but the SEED grant, absolutely is trying to offset some of those costs. And then things like, where there's sometimes litigation around this notion of reasonable costs. is really for us to be able to have one standard across the board so that different districts are not making different decisions about what costs are and who should be paying what. So those are some things that the legislators are doing. And in addition to that, the continued advocacy that we all have to continue to look for more special education dollars. So with that, I'm at the end of my slide deck if there's any questions for me.
Comments or questions? Dr. Yarbrough.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Jackson, very much for presenting today. Always learn a lot when you present. Thank you. I have two questions. One is in terms of the outplacement or out of district placement, are these resulting from parents who secure services out of district for their children, or is it NHPS who arranges for the out of district placement?
So it would come from a PPT recommendation, but some of them are students that are coming from other districts. So I think I mentioned early on, just as an example. So the majority, let me answer your question first, and then I'll extend it. It could be from a PPT recommendation. The only time where it would be something where it's a parent. Oh, a parent-parental team meeting. So that's the meeting where we all convene. So oftentimes if we felt a child wasn't able to, we weren't able to educate the child, right? What we call LRE, which is in the least restrictive environment. If we are not able to educate our student within one of the specialized programs, the next step would be for out of district placement. Like I said, we are trying to make the investments so that we can have those programs in district. But if we feel that a student, cannot be best serviced there, then we do make recommendations to out of district placements. There are times where we've had settlement agreements where parents in some of the out of district placements, but that number is relatively small compared to the numbers that we may have that generated from district or that we've inherited from another district. I think back in October, I talked about, I think it was 7 students. And if we looked at the cost for those 7 students, like 1.7 million that we had nowhere in the budget to account for. It's like, they come in, we have to educate them. These are students we look at, can we put them into our specialized program? No, the need is too great. Then this is a student who has to stay in their current, program. So we can't control that, but largely it's from PPT recommendations, our team meetings, or it's, a student that we may have inherited.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
my second question is one of the initial slides, I think you showed the students that we serve between our count between July and September, and then you showed an additional number, maybe I think it was 22 additional students who
Yep.
came in after September up until now. When we do our budget, I guess my question is, when we create a budget for the next fiscal year, what enrollment number do we use? Are we anticipating, now that we have a trend of increased enrollment, are we anticipating increased enrollment and then we budget for that increase? Or do we look at our current enrollment number and budget that way?
I think we look at our current enrollment because what happens is that we can't predict, even if it was 61 students that were coming in, I would never be able to predict that these are 61 students that require specialized programming, right? Like that's not, that's highly unusual that's what's, happening. We just know that over the course of time that we continue to have the students, and we quite frankly don't have it in the budget to budget additional. What we do know is that we continue to build programming because we know and anticipate that we're going to get more and more students. And where's the budget coming from? We know that we're already in a budget deficit, so we try to make do with what we have because we understand that creating that program in district is going to be more cost effective than sending those 10 to 12 students in out of district placement. But there's no easy answer to that, quite honestly, unless
Okay.
we have more budget money being sent to us, which
Yeah.
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, thank you. maybe something to discuss in our
Sure.
looking for our budget process in the future, just uh, how we account for the trend that we see as it
Yeah.
relates to enrollment around special needs. And I do hear you around. There isn't like a budget amount that we're receiving that would match that. And I'm thinking we probably need to state it somewhere so
Yeah.
people know the cost for us being able to provide the service that we want to and need to provide students.
But I was just going to say to Dr. Yarbrough, having a conversation with even some of the colleagues in like districts, that's one of the things we talked about. In our district, it would be nice if there were, some funding, right? If we have an X amount of students that are coming into our district after October 1, because you can't account for it, how do we get additional funding? Because all districts aren't created equal, right? How can we have through the advocacy work, how do we get additional funding if we know the trend? Because otherwise, in our own trend within our own district, is just trying to slice the pie differently. That's not enough to start
Yeah,
with.
yeah, understood. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Um, a question or two that I had. One, just to follow up on the people moving into the district and so on. Do you all have conversations with some of these to gather some maybe just anecdotal or otherwise information about why they're coming to New Haven? Is it people moving from out of state, jobs bring them here, or are they moving from other cities or towns in Connecticut, and are they coming here for a particular reason just related to special education, or is it employment or a variety of other reasons people move?
We actually haven't done that, Mr. Wilcox, but I actually, if I could do it quickly, I would bring it up. We actually just did a presentation with a small number of admin, and we started to track where the students were coming from. And interestingly enough, some of them were coming from our neighboring towns. And I don't want to give wrong information, but some of our parents are saying it because of the programs that we have. Is that always the answer? Not sure. But we get students even up and through May and June requiring highly specialized programming. But I will tell you, if you were able to take a look at the number of students that are coming just from within our states and close within neighboring towns, it's a very interesting trend.
Agreed, and it is kind of interesting, and it would be interesting to. I'm not saying I need to look at that data. It'd be interesting to have somebody, who's understands it better and qualified to look at that data to kind of look. Also, I imagine there's some people that leave the district, and do they move to other towns? Also, look, we have a net increase, but I don't know. Are we having students move out of town? Maybe to pursue specialized services that are done particularly well at other districts. I imagine there's a lot of information sharing with parents of students that have severe needs as to where the better programs are, where people are seeing successes, et cetera. But that would be kind of interesting also just to help with the larger conversation in the state about not only are the costs explosion and for third party providers for these students, but also the costs related to charter schools. I know you've testified in the past about all the efforts that you and your group do to try to keep our costs down so that not that the students don't deserve this, but it's like we want to have it a similar level of service that a New Haven public school kid gets, also that a New Haven charter school kid gets, so that it's kind of a similar and not just a blank check, understanding that those children might need those services, but just to make sure that it's kind of fair and equal across the board. So that would be just kind of interesting. I'm not saying anybody's getting pushed out of other districts, but it is kind of interesting to see how that goes. And that also might help inform the discussion around that October 1 cutoff, because I imagine, let's just say somebody moved from a town. I'm not going to pick one. I don't want to single anybody out. I'm not saying anybody's doing anything untoward. But just if they move from town A into New Haven and they received monies for that student, and we did not receive monies for that student, it just seems that maybe for special education that there is kind of needs to be something that's looked at when it's for students with severe needs, that have high costs, that's accounted for properly. So that's not really a question, it's commentary, I
Yeah,
guess.
no, I agree.
The one question I do have, I think you mentioned SB 1561. Was that passed or was that talked about? I can't remember if that became law or if that increased funds coming into
There
school
are some
districts with higher
increased
needs,
funds,
or
which, yeah, sorry, I'm looking at my thing now.
I guess the real question
Yeah,
is,
go ahead.
did we see legislative action last year
Yes,
that passed that is
yes,
working on this? Okay.
yes.
All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so many bills get raised and passed or tabled or changed and passed in a different form. It's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, just the one thing I would tell you that we know is going to be slow, and this is just in case it comes up anywhere, that notion of reasonable cost. Some of that was passed and the state is working on it, but we know that that's going to be many years before that's actually reconciled. So, we have had some nice energy with a couple of our folks in like districts to try to figure out how do we come together, right? Because we know that this is maybe many years out before we actually get something reconciled that will be shared across the state. So we're
Yeah.
trying to be proactive and not necessarily just wait.
And then the final thing, and I think this is more for Dr. Negron, just is, and I can't recall in the budget presentations we've seen this budget cycle if the increasing costs in special education are really spelled out. I think I've seen that data, but I don't recall. But I imagine that is something that our
It's
delegation to Hartford and then also the alders would be interested in, just to understand some of the cost structure.
Yes, Mr. Wilcox. That's why some of the slides that Tiffany
Okay.
was using today came directly from the budget presentation that we made.
Okay. All right. I couldn't recall if that was the case or not. So thank you very much. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay. Thank you, as always, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
And next item is the discussion calendar. I owe everybody a copy of the discussion calendar. Ms. DeMayo was updating it, and so we'll be sending out that to the committee this week, and we'll post it with the meeting materials for our next F&O meeting. But if there is anything anybody would like added, and as you can see, the intention is to have this run through September. So, and Ms. DeMayo's gone back and looked at our previous discussion calendars just to kind of keep up some of the standard things we're looking at. But we'll be sending that to the committee before the end of this week. So my apologies for being the slowdown, Ms. DeMayo, on that item. Number 12 is upcoming financial issues. Is there anything that we haven't discussed yet today that we need to know about? Something looming that we're going to hear more about later, but just want to give the board the heads up. All right. And then the final thing on the agenda is procurement policy. So as background on this, we had discussed updating or making a slight change to the procurement policy to add language about how long we will accept a designation of sole source before we want that reconfirmed with the purchasing agent of that. If I remember correctly, the purchasing agent is, if she doesn't have a date on it specifically, then the date is whenever something changes, and it's up to the school district to decide if something's changed. And so we did have discussions at prior meetings about if we were going to say that has to be, we'll only accept it for 2 years or 3 years. And so there's that, and there's maybe one or two other changes. So Ms. DeMayo, you want to, what else is there that we're going to look at in our next meeting?
We're looking at requesting language be added regarding, first of all, the relationship between the Board of Education and the State Board of Education as a separate entity, and the relationship, and then Because of that relationship and some mandated services that are required, that we have educational exceptions to some of our purchasing requirements. So we have to fine tune that and work on that. But some of the issues that we deal with related to how quickly we're able to secure contractors for special ed and for some of the shortage areas and some of the state resource centers like CREC, ACEs, those are all state approved. We also have situations where the state has mandated that we have to choose between 2 or 3 vendors to provide curriculum or services, related services. So we're looking to try to add language to the procurement policy that covers that.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Are there comments or questions for Ms. DeMayo? So we'll look at this at a future meeting, and I assume we're going to get some suggested language on that, or do we need to have a group look at that?
We actually had some language in the original policy draft, and it was somehow in the course of things removed. And we didn't see that because we weren't expecting it, quite frankly. So the language has already been written to some extent, and we'll just utilize that language and any additional language.
Okay, so we'll see an upcoming draft. If this requires meetings or anything like that, I'm happy to meet, and you could reach out to the committee to see if anybody else needs to. My understanding is this has always been, sometimes it gets a little complicated because we have our policy, the city has their policies. We're boards of education are a creature of the state, New Haven Public Schools, our department in the city of New Haven, and so there's some balancing that needs to happen. These certainly sound 100% like some things that need to be looked at. If the state is requiring us to use one of 3 different vendors to do a required service that they're paying for, obviously we're going to, in the end, have to do that, and having something that works so that we're not missing deadlines, jeopardizing funding or children's education. We need to look at that. So my request to the committee would be if there's something in addition to these 2 items, which is the academic language, academic exception languages, and then also how long we'll accept a sole source designation when the purchasing agent has not designated a specific time frame. If you have anything else like that, please send it to the committee, your committee colleagues, as well as Ms. DeMayo and Dr. Negron. So, any other comments or questions on this? All right. We've reached the end of the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We shall vote. Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
We get to
everyone.
go enjoy a little sunshine right now.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.